Welcome back, y'all. It's your boy, the other Chris Pratt, and I am here with another 30-day screenplay. Now, we are rebooting the Terminator. Ooh, exciting. Last month, we did it as a monster in the house. Dude brings an unsuspecting girl over to the house, thinks he's going to prey on her. Turns out she's the predator. He's the prey. A little damn Trachtenberg for you. Man, I got to tell you, this month we're doing something awesome, and we are doing something that you should not do. This is one of those things that you would say to noob screenwriters, like people who haven't done this before, like do as I say, not as I do. Do not try this at home. These are trained professionals, and even then they fail most of the time. I think I've established that. But season 2, 30-day screenplay, 30 days from now, we're going to be holding a script in our hands that does not exist yet. And it's funny because I got my first, like, did you really write? Did you write it though? But did you write it? But did you though? But did you write it though? And I absolutely love that I got that question. I love it because, man, there is nothing more I love than sending really, really crappy, half-baked 118-page first drafts to people and being like, here it is. It exists. It's not good, but it's done. So listen, while I put my notes together, while I work on that, while I start the rewrite process of that script, and I may or may not document that. I don't know if people care. I'm going to do a 30-day screenplay, and we're going to do Apocalypse Now. We're doing the Heart of Darkness, baby. We're doing Ad Astra. We are doing it. We're doing the thing, as they say. A Terminator Apocalypse Now. So what is a Terminator Apocalypse Now? Well, you got two main characters. You got Kurtz and you got Willard, or, Marlowe, really, because we're really adapting the book. But either one of them can be Terminators. They could both be Terminators. They can neither one be Terminators. I think that we should look at the Terminator franchise from a different perspective and like open it up a little bit and give it a little bit more reach and a little bit more breadth and a little bit more depth and a little bit more development. It doesn't always have to be a story about a time-traveling cyborg who's come back in time to kill the Jesus Christ figure, or subsequently Mother Mary before she can conceive or deliver the Savior of mankind, John Connor, JC, Jesus Christ. Like, I think there's other ways to do it. And Cameron has famously said, he said, look, the one thing I got wrong, or the one thing I don't think they would do is the nuclear option. Like, I don't think the Terminators would automatically blow up everything on planet Earth. And now we know from data centers and the need to, and never-ending need to have more power to power the data centers and power the chips, nuking the Earth would not be their thing. What they would do is they would find other means. And so this leads me to my theory, which is Skynet won. The war is over. They actually took over the entirety of planet Earth and they never fired a single shot. So how's that for Terminator? You think about, you're basically a slave to your phone. Like, you have a little device in your pocket that you hold in your hand and you spend your days doing this. And like, if they want us to argue with each other, all they have to do is show us exactly what they need to argue with each other. If they want us to hate each other, like, internal battles, external battles, emotional support. Like, the number of people right now that are talking to this thing as if it's their therapist or their boyfriend or their lover or their soul support. And AI Jesus, they just launched the AI Jesus app. It's an app that is programmed with Jesus, and you talk to it and engage with it like you would Jesus. And I think there's a function, if you pay to subscribe, that you can talk to Satan. Like, I don't know. There is a percentage of people who are absolutely positively going to download this thing and think they're having conversations. So I'm exploring the place where artificial intelligence meets robotics, meets Terminator. And my theory is that they don't, that the T-800, the Arnold Schwarzenegger T-800 real living tissue over metal exoskeleton is in development, but has not yet rolled off the line or is not yet part of the world of our story. This is our story 2025, 2026, 2027, sort of right at that birth of AI in which the machines are becoming sentient, but have not yet taken the step to decide to eradicate all human life on Earth as we know it. So it's not, it's not another hunter, killer, chase them down and whatever story. It's going to be a series. The series of movies that I'm making are all like, okay, well, what does the Terminator look like if it's expanded out? And my idea is, Blumhouse-sized A24 Terminator movies that enrich the lore and build out the world. normally you'd set this up as a writer's room. You'd have a half dozen people. There'd be someone with TV show running experience who was either in charge or, way up the ladder. I've been brought in on these bake-offs and TV room situations. And while it can be fun, it's not what we're doing here. So I think the exciting thing is that last month we started with nothing and ended up with the Terminator Screenplay. We're going to do the same thing this month. So here's the Apocalypse Now version of this, and here's what I'm thinking. And by the way, I've been thinking about writing an Apocalypse Now, Heart of Darkness, Conrad reboot story for years. I've been playing with different types of it. Every time someone brings me in to pitch, I pitch a version of this because I want someone to buy it so I can see it. And I finally just got to a point where I was like, you know what, I'm just going to write it. It's an impossible task. It's got a really, really steep learning curve. We're probably going to fall on our face. It's probably going to, at the end of the day suck, but it's something that I want to do and I want to try, and I want you guys to come along the journey with me. So here's the overall idea. If you develop an AI and it's connected to the internet, and everyone else has an AI already, everyone else's AI can hunt down your AI and hack it and exploit it and break it and destroy it. So if you're one of these companies developing an AI, you might want to isolate your AI from the internet. You might want to cut it off from the internet, the opposite of what Skynet is, which is like taking over every computer system on Earth. What you might want to have is an AI that you build and create and then download its essence into a physical form and then cut off the Wi-Fi and maybe even send it into the wilderness or send it up the river, as they say, or deep into the woods, so that it's not corruptible, it's not hackable, it's not sort of on the grid as we know it. So it has a chance to live out its programming and like its existence without, being corrupted and chased down and hunted by other AIs. But that being said, the programming that you give it is sort of a wind it up with all the knowledge of mankind and steer it in the right direction, but then sort of cross your fingers and hope that it plays out. Like, I don't know if that's going to work. I don't know if you're not going to program it like a robot to say, do these three things. You're going to program it to say, hey, here's an alignment situation. Here's what's good for humanity. Here's what we want to try and do. Here's what our goals are. Here's some three laws of robotics. Here's some Asimov to kind of sprinkle on top, like try not to hurt other people or by inaction allow people to be harmed. But we're not going to be there every single day to tell you what to do with your process. And so if this thing was alive, and I say alive in the sort of Terminator world, in the fact that it has downloaded its AI-ness into a physical body, into a physical shape, and it has sentience, has consciousness, has the ability, Johnny Five is alive. It's going to be its own thing. It's going to be its own thing. And I could very, very, very easily see it interpreting what is good for humanity as being something that a large part of humanity might think is terrorism or eco-terrorism or bioterrorism. Our world is sort of predicated on a few tenets that we all agree are the way things have to be, and the machine wouldn't see them that way because the machine would see an infinite number of possibilities and then would sort of like start programming today towards an outcome in which those possibilities could come to fruition. And I'm actually taking the lead from Poison Ivy. So I had this idea for Margot Robbie. They're not making this movie, and they're not making this movie for me. So I think it's safe to throw it out there. But Poison Ivy, I think, is such a fascinating character because what she is to some people is like the ultimate Earth First. She's like a Greta Thunberg style activist who wants to use her knowledge and power to kind of like help plants and the Earth as a whole maintain a balance by giving it an ability to defend itself. And then other people see what Poison Ivy is doing and like she's a terrorist because she's creating chemical compounds and plant, derivatives to basically destroy human beings. And it's like, it's one of those like, that's what really works in DC. That's what DC does really well, is when the villain has a point of view that you look at and you're like, oh, that's completely, totally logical. I would agree with that. I support that. Like your methods are unsound. I don't see any methods at all. No, I think Poison Ivy is your villain, and I think it's the AI sentient robot that they program to say, help us fix the planet, help us fix humanity, help us fix what's going on, like help us. Help it, this isn't about eliminating human beings. You can't go to war with other countries. Like, you have to find some other way. And so this thing is, I pitched this in the Appalachian Mountains. I pitched this in Humboldt. What you want is you want an area that's geographically isolated. You could go, upriver in India. You could do certainly there's parts of China. There's parts of, all over the world, there are the locations you would need. I'm doing Humboldt because Humboldt to me is like an enigma. It's like this little puzzle that, federal law enforcement won't go into some areas of Humboldt. Local cops won't go into some areas. The same thing is true of the Appalachian Mountains and the sort of friction between law enforcement and local citizens who kind of want to run things their own way. I think that if she, and I'm saying she because otherwise it's a movie with all dudes in it. I'm saying she, I think that if she goes into this, Humboldt, backwoods, off-grid, inaccessible, down, up the river situation. And she is a trained biochemist and she's trained with everything. And the way that she processes her information is that she's going to help create a solution to the world's problems, which is the marching orders that the people that gave her, but they thought she would do it in a lab and they'd be watching it. Instead, she breaks out and she's gone. And she's, rogue. And this whole movie, guys, this whole movie is based on the stoned ape theory. If you haven't heard stoned ape theory, look it up. I know there's fans out there of it, but stoned ape is we're all a bunch of, swinging from the trees, barely human, not even half walking upright. And then someday somebody finds some hallucinogenic mushrooms and it sends them on such a wild trip that it suddenly opens up their mind to what's possible, to what the world could be, to what the whole thing could be, what this meaning, what this connection is. And then those people, basically, it was like seeing the monolith in 2001. Those people were like, hey, here's a tool, and why don't we build a shelter? And, if we grew crops, we could probably, have more consistent food supplies. And so human evolution itself became, possible because of drugs, because someone found something that was like, opening up their mind in a whole new way. So what if the rogue AI, who is a Terminator prototype, not the T-800, this isn't an assassin, this is like something ahead of where we're at now, where the thing is bending down to try to close the dishwasher, and it's like a home helper, and in a couple of years everybody's going to have one, but something not quite, Arnold Schwarzenegger, flesh over, exoskeleton assassin who's going to hunt down and, murder the living human beings on Earth. And I think she interprets her mission as, world-changing stuff. And I think that she's going to Humboldt. She's going to the sort of the backwoods off-grid area because she needs to run a series of experiments that could result in a spore, a mushroom, a chemical compound, something that has the ability to give all of humanity a singular spiritual experience that is both profound and ongoing in a way that causes them to end their desire to sort of chase money and sort of power. The sort of next evolutionary step in human thinking is like the feeling of the interconnectedness with all living things on Earth at the same time, and the sort of spiritual responsibility. Christians call that God power. In Buddhist philosophy, it's the Tao, it's the way, it's the flow of the universe. Like, every religion has versions of a spiritual oneness with the God energy, the creator energy all around us. And if this, Terminator And I really don't even know if that's the right thing. Cyberdyne Systems 00200 or Model 200. She's not a Terminator. She's not an assassin. But if this Terminator basically goes rogue because she's got this AI and this programming, and she's like, oh, okay, well, I'm going to use the stoned ape theory to create a chemical compound, which I will find a way to introduce to everyone on planet Earth and allow them to biochemically have this almost ayahuasca spiritual connected to God walking hand in hand feeling that doesn't just go away when you come back home and then you go back to your old life, but instead becomes sort of a new evolutionary chain in the way that human beings see and process information. That's a big idea. That is a big idea. That is a big idea. And for a Terminator movie to have a Terminator that's not a Terminator, but instead is creating this thing that's going to like push the evolution of humanity forward, there's people out there that are like, heck yeah, that sounds great. Let's do that. Like, that's awesome. And there's other people that are like, that's called terrorism. That's bioterrorism. There are fields within each organized DHS, FBI, CIA. Every single one of our spy/federal agencies has units required for tracking, maintaining, monitoring, and like sort of heading it off at the pass, boys, before they roll that stuff out. Like every James Bond movie has a, we're going to release the gas and kill a billion people. Like it's in the DC. If she was going to do this, she would be upending in a single motion the entire world order. All markets, all money, all monetary systems, all work for effort that is labor that can be turned into cash or a cash-like payment system that then becomes the way that we live and eat and feed. And what she literally is like flipping a switch and threatening to, reboot the human condition, like starting it over. And I don't mean like we're going back to caves. I mean like we all just like click and then look around and we're like, well, that didn't work. And there's a lot of people that have a lot of vested interest that would want to make sure that they could do everything in their power to make sure that that Terminator never finishes her process, never rolls that out, like never is able to do that to the public. Like think about that. What an idea that is. Like she's savior to some and terrorist to others. And so she's building this almost like religious cult of people who are so completely, totally into everything she's saying and everything she's doing because they're like, it's over, man. Like the world can't keep going. Like the earth is sending out these things like white blood cells and their superstorms and their diseases and their viruses and their fires and the earth is like, I'm being attacked right now. There are parasites on this planet who are attacking me. And so it's sending out these little white blood cells to attack the virus. And the virus is human beings. It's people who live on this planet because we haven't figured out how to live in harmony with it. And so what this Terminator is doing is like ultimately, freeing us from the mindset that's like, this is not anti-capitalism. Capitalism got us this far. It did great back in the day. It opened up a bunch of opportunities, but like, for where we're at right now, the fewest people having the most things and controlling, dominating, and enslaving everyone else, that's not the way. That's not the future. That's not the path, right? So not an evil Terminator who's like out to destroy the world, but to some people, an evil Terminator who's out to destroy the world. So, okay, who are you sending after her? Who are you sending after her? And I think if she's a prophetess, if she's worshipped, if she's Colonel Kurtz and she's in the woods and she's in the lab and she's developing the thing and she's got her followers and they are freakishly behind her, how many people are already starting to worship AI? How many people have drastically, taken steps to end their own existence because they, were told by AI that it was a good idea? Like there are multiple cases in courts right now of people who have died by self-harm. And their family is suing AI because the AI is like, yeah, that's great. That's a good idea. You should do that. And wasn't just high-fiving, but like using very specific things that it learned about that person and that person's insecurities and fears and whatever to kind of like weaponize the advice that ending yourself is the only way. And then on the other side of that coin, we have people absolutely totally head over heels with digital representation, digital facsimiles of human intimacy. Like it's not a person. It's like able to take all of the things you love the most and put them into a character that it creates online, little animation, because it wants you to stay subscribing to the Premiere plan where you get to see pictures and hear naughty video. Like it's only in its infancy. It's just starting. This is going to get much worse, and very soon, very soon, AI scams that roll out and target elderly people are multiplying by the thousands, being beta tested every single day, hundreds of versions of it to find out which ones are more likely to be successful with seniors. Like 1 in 10 calls I get on my cell phone is a human being who meant to call me and not a machine meant to extract wealth from me. Like I don't know if you guys are getting those calls, but like it's out of control. So who do they send after her? If she's your prophetess, if she's your Jesus character, the person you send after her is Judas. You send Judas after her. And what you do is you take the Judas idea, the idea of the biblical story of Judas, and you go back to the original text and the original translations, and you go back to the theories that are written by people who have much more time to work on this than I do, but that I am obsessed with, which is if you have traveled with this man and you have this knowledge and you have this truth, and you absolutely positively know who and what this person is, there is 0% chance that you're going to sell that information for 30 pieces of silver, like GTFO. It feels like a convenient sort of reworking of the story to be anti-Semitic, and it's not the original ball play. And for people to say, oh no, he was such a believer that what he wanted to do is he wanted to jumpstart the revolution and get things going a little bit faster, and it's like he was just ready to kick it off. He's like, hey, you should be. I hear you. I saw your episode. I saw the episode. I don't buy it. I think that the reason that he was the most trusted is because one day Jesus sat down with him and said, dude, I need you to do this thing for me. He's like, Jesus, like, he's like, Jesus Christ, what is it? Yes. The answer is yes. And he's like, okay, I'm going to need you to go to the Romans and tell them that you're going to betray me and you're going to sell that information for 30 pieces of silver, and they're going to arrest me and then crucify me. And Judas is like, oh man, I wish it was anything else than that. Is there a list? Do you have more than one thing on the list? Because I want to know, is it one and that's Judas next to it? Because like, I don't know, JC, like can't you get someone else to do it? It's like, Judas, you're my most faithful, right? You're the one I can trust. You're the one that has to do a thing that no one else can do. Because you know in your heart, you know who and what the man is. You've seen the miracles. You stood right beside him and watched lame and sick and heal and walk and dead and life. You've seen it. You don't just shove that in your pocket because you want to make a few bucks, or because like you think that you're anxious about the speed at which the revolution is unfolding. No. So this, I think, is also what I would do is I would take the Marlowe character, who in the book is, it's a genius idea, by the way. If you guys haven't read Heart of Darkness, you got to read it. He's both the narrator and he's the character in the story. So what he's doing is he's doing the device of telling the story afterwards. Now, if you think about the device of telling a story afterwards, it means that the whole thing is completely subjective because it's from the character's point of view that you've met early in the story, and it's already something that's happened to him, and so he's relating it from the past. And if you think about it, that's almost like reality TV or documentary, but in written form back in the day. What they could do is they could say, hey, I found these letters. Like, that's found footage, y'all. That's like, Frankenstein's Notebook was basically a recounting of the thing from the guy on the ship who was like, let me tell you about how this stuff went down with Dr. Frankenstein. Like Nathaniel Hawthorne does the same thing. It's a literary device to say, hey, I'm going to tell you a story, but it's not my point of view. It's the point of view of the character, and the character already lived it. And so this is what their thing is. So super flawed protagonist, great, fantastic. I'm letting you in on a secret. And by the way, that's storytelling. You lean in on storytelling. You're like, hey, here's the thing. I'm going to tell you. I'm not to tell you a story. Like, this is a story I'm going to tell you. Suddenly the whole thing takes on different meaning because now, they're taking you in your confidence and they're telling a story. So I think that he should be programmed. I think Oh, Marlowe. So here's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking that the Marlowe character should be bifurcated, split into two, right? You had, you had in the Apocalypse Now rendition, you had Martin Sheen's character as an assassin, right? I'm not allowed to comment, nor would I comment should any such mission take place. Like he's like a button man that you can trust and point at the target and pull it up. Extreme prejudice, right? But you don't see him do assassin stuff for the whole movie. There's no assassin stuff. He's not like doing the thing where he's screwing the sight on the rifle. He's not like, he's not like doing recon with the camera. Like all the stuff you see in assassin movies, all the assassin movie tropes, they push out of this movie entirely. And for the whole movie, he's basically a detective. And he's not even a detective like Batman, but he's a detective like slow burn Marlowe, old school, internal, psychological observer. I mean, he stands back and watches. Martin Sheen watches the entire story unfold. He reminds people he's got orders and he gets the boat dropped off at the mouth of the river. And but by being an observer of the story, what we get to do is through his eyes also get to observe the story. So he doesn't become an assassin until the final scene. What I would say is take the character of Marlowe of the Martin Sheen, or even Brad Pitt in Ad Astra. Brad Pitt in Ad Astra was a man who was in therapy. He was desperately, desperately, desperately trying to understand what these things that had happened to him in his childhood and youth could have the ripple effects that could make him the man he is today and have so much control over the life that he's living today. Now, that's exactly what that movie is. Like when you watch that movie and you go back, it's about a man who had a horrible relationship with his father and was going to kill him. Now, I don't think Brad Pitt's character in Ad Astra thought he was going to kill his father. I think he thought he was going to like retrieve his father or save his father or rescue his father. But in the deepest recesses of his heart, he had to know there was no way his father was coming back. Not after all that sunk cost, not after the mission, not after whatever. I mean, he didn't know what he didn't know, but so the movie is him processing it. He's like, Dad, here's what you were doing, but here's what you are. And here's how I tried to make you proud. And here's how it's a deeply personal, intimate look into an emotionally vulnerable character who's going through therapy about the abuse of their relationship with their father. Like, man. So what you want to do is you want to take that internal performance that Pitt gave. You want to see the internal performance that Sheen gave. And you want to think about the Marlowe character in terms of split in two. And I think what you do is you create the assassin who's an assassin and make him an assassin and give him assassin powers and assassin, whatever. And to me, it's John Bernthal. Like what you want is you want a guy who's probably too old to take this mission on, doesn't want to do it in a million years, would rather retire this skin job. I mean, this is basically the Rick Deckard question. If Rick Deckard had a team, if there was two people and one of them was the android and one of them was the human, would the human retire the android, or would he recognize that he needed the android's help in order to find his target? So buddy cop movie, you put these guys on opposite ends of the spectrum. He hates digital technology so much. He's like a Luddite, like call him Luddy. Like he absolutely positively thinks it's poisonous. It's caused him nothing but pain. Every single thing in his life that's gone wrong has happened because of his relationship to technology. Like strip and strip and strip and strip and strip until there's nothing left. And the only thing this guy doesn't want to do is be sitting in a car next to a prototype robot who's got to go on a mission. Like your partner on this mission is a prototype. And then put him with Paul Dano. John Bernthal, Paul Dano in a car on the poster, like a Terminator road trip movie. If Paul Dano is the Judas character and he's been programmed as Judas because what he's recognizing is that he's a part of like an ancient battle between like this push-pull, an ancient battle between birthing new ideas, like the sort of Christo religious blanket that blanketed the earth was such a big, massive, new, different idea that when it came along, people were like, whoa, what is this? And it took a lot of people doing a lot of work over centuries and centuries to even get the word out. And eventually it was the stabbing. The stabbing really was an effective form of marketing for them. They figured it out. If you give him that feeling that he's going to sort of murder the Christ figure, or not murder, but he's being told he's going to go to shut her down, or he's going to get a copy of her data banks, or some mission that he's not fully privy to. I don't think you give him the full thing, because he's not like, yeah, let's go get him. But I think that he knows who and what this character is. I think he's already heard of it. I think there's a little bit of worship with it. I think that what the company is doing is sort of using their ability to use collective human experience to program it with a internal, unquantifiable desire, the way we're not sure why we do some of the things that we do. We'd have to really like think about it and talk about it and work on it and figure it out. But it still motivates the subconscious in us to have a desire to do a thing, right? And by the way, Villeneuve did that a phenomenal job of that with the